And today we are going to discuss about the legal aspects of the employee relations and in respect of engagement, disengagement, payment of wages, so on and so forth, all these issues, and for which we have a bit questionnaire which is commonly being asked. Initially, I will proceed with the questions which are generally being asked, and after completion of that, if you have any questions, you can come into the chat box and pose your questions, and Mr. Dhruv, as usual as is done for the first program, he would read it out and I would be able to clarify your queries. Okay, now shall we proceed? I will proceed with that, right? Mr. Dhruv, am I audible?
Yes, you're completely all audible, nice and clear.
Yes. Now, Ms. Kathy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, shall we go ahead with these questions?
Sir, yeah, so first of all, I would also like to introduce myself, would take maybe a minute. So my name is Khyati and I'm currently working as an HR business partner for Wellspun Group. And I take this opportunity. I think it's a privilege for me to, be a part of this discussion. Had a really good understanding from what Mr. Shashi had to say. So I think, Moti sir, I have a list of questions that keep coming in from the business owners, from the employers, and from the employees on the legal front. As Mr. Shashi was talking about, the things are changing at much faster pace during this ambiguous situation that we all are into. There are certain legal implications to it that are very, very critical and paramount at this particular point of time, because a lot of decisions that employers would take also depends on how these things work on the legal front. So sir, if with your permission and with the host, can we go ahead and
Yes.
have those questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sir, the very first thing that comes up to our mind is, there are a lot of legal guidelines or the being issued from the or general guidelines being issued from the government of India as well as the local authorities. How legally binding are these guidelines, and if there is any sort of justification required, can an employer or a business owner or an employee challenge those in the court of law?
Yes. The query that has been put by Ms. Kathy is that presently several orders are being issued by the Government of India and the respective state government under the Disaster Management Act and as well as the Epidemics and Diseases Act. And the question is that whether these orders issued by the Government of India and as well as the respective state government are valid or not. Is it binding in the nature as per law on the companies and industries and so on and so forth or not is one question. The other question is that can the justification or the rationality of these orders be questioned in the court of law is the other query. That's what he has raised. Sorry, Kathy has raised. And as far as the first thing is concerned, yes, the orders that are passed, the government is having powers as per the provisions of the Disaster Management Act and as well as the Epidemic Diseases Act. The government got every power to pass such orders which are required to maintain the safety of the people and as well as the public, whatever that are the instructions that are required for the safety and of the public. Yes, they got it right. And another thing is that the rationality of the orders. But neither the Disaster Management Act nor the Epidemic Diseases Act does envisage anything, say anything about the payment of wages and how the industries has to do, what are the obligations of the employer during this period of COVID or disaster or whatever epidemics or pandemics or whatever it is. What the act did not say anything. So it is the government, depending on the situation, which has been incorporating the rules and passing the orders, right? This is the situation. And when it comes to that, whether the employer can be burdened or not. You see, on one aspect, on one side, the government itself is deferring several payments, even for the retired persons, they are deferring the payment of DA, even the 50% of the pension, they say, even the government all employees also they are postponing and delaying the wages. When it comes to the private sector, the government, both central and state government, Ministry of Home Affairs, from time to time on day-to-day basis, periodically has been issuing circulars saying that the full wages has to be paid, no layoff, no retrenchment, no pay cut, so on and so forth. Whether there is any rationality. It has to be looked into. Already the Supreme Court has been, Honorable Supreme Court has been moved by one of the private industry, Nagarika Exports, saying that it is arbitrary and unjustified and these GOs are not maintainable. The employer cannot afford to pay the full wages. And while filing the petition, SLP, they sought an interim direction that pending disposal of the main case, at least there will be an interim direction that the GOs issued by the governments, respect to state governments and the central government, be stayed and suspended subject to payment of 50% of the wages at least, so that it would be a relief to the industries. That is one aspect. Even the industries, as far as the March is concerned, almost 3 weeks the industries have worked. They are having sufficient revenue, at least enough revenues, and the payments that are to become, and that they used to get the payment. And from 22nd onwards, there is totally operations are crippled. Neither the industries are getting the payment where they have to get it, nor they are in a position to pay their customers or whatever their creditors or whatever it is, they are not in a position. So financially, there is no cash flow. When it comes to the orders issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs, they say the amount has to be paid. And comes to the Telangana, especially about this Hyderabad, the Telangana government has issued a GO for the month of March that the wages has to be paid for the permanent workmen, contract workmen, outsourcing, every person for that matter, all wages. When it comes to the April, they have had to come out with that. Of course, today is almost 24th. Why I am saying is that in the month of March, they have first issued a GO that the industry has to be shut down during the lockdown period. Certain essential industries are permitted to carry their operations. But when it comes, and subsequently, they have issued a GO in respect of payment of wages. So now the lockdown has been extended. For the month of April, what the government would issue, we'll have to wait and see. But the Ministry of Home Affairs said the full wages has to be paid. That is the thing. And as far as the legality is concerned, since one industry has already challenged it, any other industry is also at liberty to, they are open to challenge it, and the courts would decide about the justification and arbitrariness in such orders issued by the government. But until unless the court suspends the order, it is binding on the employers, and they are bound by it, they got to comply. That is that's it, Mr. Kathy.
Right, sir. Right. Sir, as you mentioned, as all of us know, the inputs and the revenues have been dwindling for most of the industries. So at this point of time, a lot of employers are going with the decision of laying off their employees and having a planning around how do we terminate if there is any amount of surplus employees. They are going ahead with terminating such employees. So, sir, how, I mean, if that is possible, if that is legally just, and how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, we will do it. What I mean to say is that the next question is that before we go for the termination, that is, as far as this payment of wages and legal obligation in respect of payment of wages has been addressed, and then coming to the obligations in respect of whether the employer can lay off the employees. You see, the word layoff is used by the IT industries in a different sense. The word layoff is used by the manufacturing industries in a different sense. The laying off, as far as the manufacturing industries is concerned, temporarily not giving the work, temporarily laying off because the employer is not in a position to provide work. That is what. In laying off, usually is used in IT, ITES and service sector, that retrenching the employees, completely permanent layoff, normally they take. But the permanent layoff is not a layoff that is not dealt anywhere under any of the labor laws. Layoff means only the temporary inability of the employer in providing work to the employee. That's what called as layoff. When it comes to the layoff during the lockdown period, totally employer is prohibited from declaring the layoff. And after post-lockdown period, if the layoff has to be declared, they are at liberty. But as per the provisions of ID Act, there is a Chapter 5B. Under 5B, whichever industry comes, depending on the maximum ceiling limit of the workmen, number of workmen, as has been envisaged by the respective state laws, they'll have to go for permission. Only after getting permission, they can declare layoff when it comes to the manufacturing. When it comes to the service sector also, that laying off means on account of surplus employment, on account of rationalization or reorganization of the workforce or regioning of workforce if they found, or lack of business or whatever it is. There is a procedure legally that has to be followed and that has to be this. It is not that they can simply terminate that you need not come from tomorrow. For termination, laying off permanently means it amounts to termination, it is a retrenchment. And when you are retrenching, they got to follow the provisions as envisaged under the ID Act, and that has to be mandatorily be followed. And simply issuing a termination letter will not stand before the court of law if the employee challenges it. That is about the laying off during the lockdown or post-lockdown period. And another thing is that surplus employment. Mr. Surplus employment. Suppose okay, definitely. There is going to have a lot of impact on the business on account of this COVID. It is not the India alone which got affected. It is a global impact. When it is a global impact, definitely there is going to be a lot of impact over the industries, and certain which are essential will go on, which are not essential and which are luxurious will be postponed. And on account of it, even the IT industries, they may not be having that many projects as they were having, and all, there will be surplus employment. And now the thing is that removal of employee on account of inefficiency, because there might be certain employees previously, prior to lockdown, they found and they might have been put under the PIP, performance improvement plan, and they were not be how to deal with. There might be certain employees which the organization thinking to dispense with their services even prior to COVID incident. What would be the situation? Then post-COVID, during the COVID period, there is total prohibition of termination, dismissal, retrenchment. Another thing that comes to is that there are certain parties that do come to me during the COVID period where the essential industries are permitted to carry their activities. During the carrying of operations with the permission of the government, if the employee commits misconduct, whether the employer got right to initiate disciplinary action. Initiating disciplinary action is different from that of imposing punishment. So, employer can initiate disciplinary action like issuing a charge sheet, memo, calling for an explanation, so on and so forth, but cannot dismiss it. The process can be started, but if at all to be dismissed, it is only the post-lockdown period. That during the lockdown period, dismissal cannot be done. Disciplinary action can be initiated. And as regards the surplus employment is concerned, the retrenchment procedure has to be followed. It cannot be simple. And when it comes to the retrenchment as per the ID Act, payment of retrenchment compensation is a condition precedent. And for the employees who come under the category of workmen who doesn't have any supervisory and managerial functions, who doesn't discharge, who come under the category of workmen, if whether it is IT, ITES or manufacturing, whoever is retrenching, they'll have to pay retrenchment compensation at the rate of 15 days wages for every complete year of service. Payment of retrenchment compensation is a condition precedent for termination. It cannot be offered afterwards, after retrenchment. There is a procedure. Gratuity also has to be paid. That procedure has to be followed. And the other category of employees, say for example, that they are having talent. They are an asset to the organization, but the company is not able to avail their services because of lack of. The being human is more important than to be the human being. To be considerate enough, you can evolve various HR practices to engage the maximum employees, to provide employment to the maximum, because it is an uncertainty. Suddenly it has happened because it is a natural calamity. It is a epidemics, suddenly unforeseen situation. So employees should not be directly, they get demoralized if directly terminated. In the demoralization, they may not be able to try for a better prospect and get a better employment, so on and so forth. So there are things. One thing is that during the lockdown period, you cannot ask anybody either to adjust their leaves, which is standing to the credit of their account, or because leave, when it comes to leave, Ms. Kathy, I'm just covering some more questions. Anything I have to just
Sure, sir.
keenly pay attention to it, and you can raise it. Because for the
Sure,
paucity of
sure.
time, only half an hour is left. To save the time, I'm taking up the questions.
No worries, sir. No worries. Sure, sir.
Because the first session took a bit long time. So that what I mean to say, leaves. Leave is a right of an employee. So it is the employee to choose whether to apply for leave or not. Employer cannot force him that you apply leave, I will sanction. Sanctioning or non-sanctioning of the leave is the right of the employer. Applying availing leave or non-availing leave is the right of the employer. So employer cannot force the employee, you avail the leave, I give. With the mutual consent, for arriving at a win-win situation, to come out of the present crisis and financial crisis as well, if the employee agrees, he applies for leave, he avails for leave, employee can sanction that leave, and that can be. Otherwise, unilaterally, employer cannot say there are 10 or 15 leaves standing to the ground. But in the morning, I have seen in one of the opinions that I circulated in the WhatsApp and other things, what they said is that in the Bombay, the Bombay Industrial Relations Act, and in some of the local concerned local acts under the standing order, the employer during the crisis period can adjust the leave. If there is any such provision under the respective local laws, where it permits the employer to adjust the leave to standing to the credit of the account, they are at liberty to do. If there is no such provision, then they can't do in the absence of a legal power that is conferred upon them. They don't have the thing. It is the right of the employee when it comes to the leave. And another thing is that, Kathy, that is adjusting leaves is over whether the employer can reduce the pay and allowances. Am I right, Kathy?
Yes, sir.
Pay and allowances.
Yes.
Yes, as I told you, as I said, during the lockdown period, absolutely no reduction of pay, no deduction on whatsoever ground it is, because the guidelines are very clear. You'll have to pay. And then who is eligible for payment, who is not eligible for payment? There are industries which are totally shut down. There are industries which come under the essential category and government has permitted to operate. And where the government permitted to operate, it imposes certain conditions of social distance and cannot engage the entire workforce. They got to engage 1/4 or whatever it is, depending on the space availability and social distance. So in an industry, in an essential company, in an essential services, where they have 500 workers, if they got to maintain social distance, given time, they can employ 100. The other 400, they can't employ. So out of this 100, whoever is asked to come and do the duty, if they don't attend duty, yes, they are not entitled for payment, it's an absence. And the remaining 300, whom you have not at all asked, because you are not able to accommodate, then they are entitled for the payment. Because it is not that they are otherwise willing to work, you are not able to provide work because of the situation. They are entitled for the wages when it comes to the essential industry. Then coming to the industries which are totally shut down, they are at home, we are not able to come, then they are entitled for the wages as per the present GO until and the Honorable Supreme Court gives some order and comes to the rescue of the employer. And there is another industries, even non-essential industries also. Certain industries might be permitted by the government to operate with the skeleton staff. So those who are asked to come duty, they got to do duty. Another thing is that when it comes to the ITES industry, it is under exempted category, essential category, and mostly they are providing work from home facility. Employees are working from home, and certain employees are having infrastructure like the laptop, desktop, net connectivity, so on and so forth. And certain employees who are not having the IT industries have already shifted the infrastructure to the respective residences wherever they feel it is essential and has given. By any chance, when they were asked to work, due to lack of the network or bandwidth or whatever it is, if they are not able to, still they are not entitled for the payment because they are not able to cope up. And another thing is that if they are those who are asked to work from home, if they don't work, because the employer has given them opportunity to work, they are the people who are refusing to work. They are not entitled for the payment even in case of work from home. That is another aspect that is to be kept in mind. Another thing is that in IT industries or the manufacturing, there will be campus selection that is going on.
Right.
And
Right, sir.
certain of the industries might be, because it is in the month of March, certain people start campus recruitment right from
Recruitments,
December, January, and other things in the fourth semester, and for 4-2 or something like that. They will be. Some industries might have already given the offer letters and all, whether that can be cancelled or not.
Correct.
But I say one has to, in the offer letter, if you say that you are offered employment and you would be taken care without committing any date of appointment. It is only the provisional offer, provisional selection, and no date of appointment is put in it, that they got to join on or before such and such date. If that is so, you can defer the date of appointment owing to the reasons. Where you have committed the date of joining, what I mean to say, date of appointment means that where you have committed that they got to join on such and such date, if you want to defer the date of joining on such and such date, but you must also have a clause, there must be also a clause in the appointment letter, subject to force measures or any other reasons where the employer is not able to provide employment. The employer got every right, and the employer is at liberty to recall the offer letter or to defer or postpone this offer letter. Otherwise, it is a firm, unequivocal commitment that he got to join on such a. Basing on your offer, the employee, the person or the student did not ask the other employee. So I think, strictly speaking, as per it is not under the labor laws. Giving offer and other things, and before joining, after joining only the employer-workman relationship starts. Employer-employee relationship starts. It is as per the contract. There is an offer, there is an acceptance. In that offer, you have come to the date of joining, and you did not put any saving clause that owing to any other special reasons you have a right to recall it. Then you are bound to take it. It is my perception, according to me, legal work. But some may say simply vaguely that you need that, and you can defer it and you can postpone it. But strictly speaking, if you interpret the law and the provisions of the Indian Contract Act, offer, acceptance until there. So employers, this is the time where the employer has to make note and has to incorporate such clauses in the offer letters in future. They got to incorporate that clauses to overcome this sort of crisis and the situation and force measures. One has to do that. And another thing is that these appraisals, increments.
Very crucial.
Pardon?
Very crucial, sir.
Yeah. That is, certain people would be March ending, certain will be August, and so on. All through the year, somewhere or the other, mid appraisals will be there. And none of the provisions of the labor law says or talks about any increment, or say anything about the appraisals, or say anything about rewarding and awarding of the employees. And the rewarding and awarding of the employees is subject to performance of the employee, paying capacity of the employer. It cannot be claimed as a matter of right until unless the employee commits in his employment contract or the letter that he will be given this much increment every year, or this will be the incentives depending on the sales and other things, where if it is not so, the increments can be deferred. or appraisals can be deferred or postponed, or appraisals can be cancelled this year, or revision can be cancelled, and an appeal can be made to the employees that they got to work with the same remuneration and compensation package for that. And employees also do understand, because the survival of the organization is also equally important, because the employment of the employee exists only when the organization exists. Mr. Drew, is it okay now? Okay.
Hello.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, you're very much audible. I could hear you all this while.
It's okay. Yes. The employment of the employee exists only when the industry exists. Employee also would do come forward to cooperate with the employer as per the increments, as per as the pay revision that can be taken. When it comes to the pay reduction, and Mr. Drew, and when it comes to the reduction, you see there is difference of opinion. Some say that this applies only to the workmen who are employees within the definition of the worker under the Payment of Wages Act. Only the employees drawing up to 24,000 are covered under the Payment of Wages Act. The employees who are drawing more than 24,000 are not covered under the Payment of Wages Act. The GO and the government orders that are issued are applicable only to the employees who are covered under the Payment of Wages Act, and as well as the workman who is covered under the Industrial Dispute Act. So in Industrial Dispute Act, the one in the manufacturing industry, supervisor and above category are excluded from the definition of workman, because they have a right to entrustment of work, they have a right to supervise the work, they have a right to guide the workers, recommendation of leave, sanction of leave, appraisal power, so on and so forth. When it comes to the IT industry, they call in different names: associate, analyst, or consultant, junior consultant, senior consultant, software engineer, developer, programmer, so on and so forth. All these people come under the definition of workman. I think, according to me, from the team lead onwards, he is exempted from the definition of workman, because he leads the team, he leads the project, who is the project in charge, and they all the others. Then coming to the Payment of Wages Act, so the junior engineers or whatever it is, or trainee engineers, even in manufacturing, graduate engineers, if the pay is more than 24,000, they are not covered under the Payment of Wages. If it is more than 24,000, but not that, according to me, whether he is a worker under the ID Act, whether he is an employee, workman under the Payment of Wages Act or not. And they used to differentiate between the wage and salary. The word salary is nowhere defined under any of the labor laws. It's the word wage only is used. When it comes to the workman category, you are not supposed to reduce the wage or direct the wage, even during the lockdown period. That is one aspect. Post-lockdown period also, in most of the cases in manufacturing industries, they are all organized. They are having unions. You need to enter into a mutual agreement with the unions for reduction of the pay, because minimum wage is the right guaranteed under the statute. Over and above the minimum wage, paid and living wage is not a right. It is subject to paying capacity of the employer, performance of the employee. They can arrive at a settlement where the workmen are organized and represented. Where there is no union and all, the management can have a discussion one-to-one, and with the consent of the employee, not unilaterally, with the consent of the employee, individual employee, they can, while protecting the minimum wages, they can. When it comes to the non-workmen, that is the senior positions, general managers, executives, or managers, so on and so forth. Even according to me, for those people also, the service conditions of the workman category are governed under the labor law, and the service workman conditions of the non-workman, that is supervisory and managerial, are governed under the terms and conditions of the contract, employment contract. Be it an employment contract, be it an agreement or appointment letter, where terms and conditions are imposed and offer and accept. What is a contract? Contract need not be on a stamp paper or a non-judicial stamp paper, or it has to be registered and all. Anything where there is an offer and acceptance is there, it constitutes a contract. That is the One thing that for a valid contract, there should be an offer, there should be an acceptance, it should be with consideration. In the absence of consideration also, it is not. Consideration means pay and pegs and other payment of allowances is the consideration. Therefore, offer and acceptance is the contract. So even for the non-workman category employees, you have committed certain payments in the appointment letter, in the annexes, pay package, CTC. You can't unilaterally until unless you have a clause in the appointment letter. Many normally the thing is that with the due permission and excuse from the HR fraternity, if I am permitted to put it in the appointment letters from time to time, I need to update the appointment letters. Otherwise, what is happening is that they are simply, mostly it is a cut paste technology that is being adopted. I'm sorry, with due excuses, it is a cut paste technology they are doing. It is not that, because when the law is keep changing, when the circumstances are keep changing, when certain force measures are coming, and so many recessions and other things are coming, where you got to put a clause in the appointment letter, this offer of compensation benefits, whatever is offered is in the present circumstances. However, in the course of the employment of this employee with the company at any point of time, if the company, owing to the reasons of economy, business, convenience, recession, or financial problem, the company is at liberty to reduce the wages not more than 20% or 10%. You have to be rational, because justice not only be done, it should seem to have been done. You need to be not more than certain percentage of the wages. The company is at liberty to reduce while protecting the wage guaranteed under the statute. You can do it, because already you have put such a clause in the appointment letter. Employee gave you unequivocal acceptance to the same. Without there being such clause, now today you can't say because he is not a worker, and this is all only for few days. And now the new wage code comes. Everybody, right from the class 4 employee to the paid director, they are covered under the new wage code. They can invoke the payment of wages, they can invoke the relief under the bonus, and so on and so forth. In the new wage code, all these things, say employees compensation or whatever it is, employees compensation as on today is applicable to everyone. There is no such thing. So at present, this is the thing. Even for the people who come under the non-workman category, you can't unilaterally reduce or deduct the wages. You need to take the consent of the employee. It is not by way of general circular or intra-mail, something like that. You need to take an individual consent of the employee. And layoff we have covered, no, Kathy?
Layoff, yes, sir. Layoff.
Disciplinary action we have
Actions
covered.
we have covered.
Yes, retrenchment
Okay.
also we have covered, and another thing is that realignment of work.
Yeah.
Am I right, Kathy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Realignment of work and modifying the work or engagement and employment. What I mean to say, like what I said, that we also have to be human beings, and employees have worked with us. It is not because of the inefficiency. The circumstances are bad, intentions are not bad. Circumstances are beyond the control of employer. Circumstances are beyond the control of the employee as well. So instead of directly retrenching the employee, you say whether you would be able to distribute the work available to maximum employees. Then you may say that where you are having 100 employees, your industrial engineering study says that only you would be able to provide employment to 60. How can you distribute the work to the remaining 40? That would be the question. What I mean to say that in IT industry, it is measured with billable hours. In manufacturing, 8 hours. Suppose if we can put a proposal to the employees that you work only 4 hours, that is 50%, you will get 60% payment. If the employee is willing, as against employing now 40, you can employ 80. In 8 hours work, you can give the option to the employees rather than losing total employment to distribute the work. It is a humanitarian approach.
Right.
As I repeatedly say, being human is more important than to be the human being. So it is more important. We have to keep up their moral. That would definitely help the organization in terms of otherwise nowadays it is open. good old days, okay, कल से नहीं आने का, over. Nobody used to know about it. The next moment, it will go to the glass door. So when we are in need, they are used as left and right. When there is no need, they are thrown us within no time.
Yes, sir.
So let us not give that message to the general employees also, because the thing is, suppose if we unilaterally do resort to such sort of actions, forget about the employees who have left. The employees who are working with you also will be having some sort of insecurity. Today it happened to X. Why can't it be tomorrow to me? Rather, if you take the employees into confidence, distribute the work, seek their consent, win over them. And if you win over the employee, implement anything, there won't be any litigation. If you don't win over the employee, if you implement it, there is a litigation. And a litigation is a speculation without any destination. You would be landing into this. So try to implement the schemes by winning over the employee. Winning over means not winning over the employee by your power. You should be the inner winner. You should be able to present the things, convince the employee that it is not you and me. It is we. See, this is the situation of the company. This is your situation. Let us arrive at a solution for the survival of the industry and your survival. Rather individually planning, I plan about my organization, you plan about your career. Rather, we say that both of us sit together plan, we plan our career, survival of the organization, and as well as the career of the employee. So if you do such sort of realignment of work, then you can ask the employees, he will be on work 4 hours. Give a liberty to them that they can engage without causing prejudice to your business interest of the company in which employed. He can take up the other employee for the remaining 4 hours for his eking a livelihood, because it is an unforeseen. He might be having his company EMIs.
Right.
So I always prefer to talk beyond law, no being a lawyer, because I am a human being first than the lawyer. By the same time, being human being is not that generous at the cost of others, and being generous at the cost of the companies. Company also should survive. That is why to arrive at a win-win situation, it is always better to take the employees into confidence, appraise the present situation, work out. You also invite suggestions, and that is one aspect. The other aspect is that if the employee is willing, you can say that instead of terminating as an unemployed, if he goes to the other employment, he will not get it, get demobilized. You can say that rehiring process. He is a full-time employee, engage him as a part-time employment. Or he is a full-time employee, engage him as a consultant. He is at liberty to pursue his consultancy and freelancing with other clients as well, who are not your competitors. So in a phased manner, give the employee an opportunities. Rather throwing out directly that I don't require you. These are all customized. It cannot be said in general. It is only the thought, it is only the idea I'm sharing, and the organization would think about it in a better manner in the permitted circumstances and given situation than me. It is only the light I'm throwing, the thought I'm throwing, that the organizations and the employers can think about it.
Sure, sir. Sir rightly said. I mean, the compassion and empathy should be the language of everyone, be it the employer or the employee. So, sir, there are a few more questions from the audience as well as I had from the fraternity.
Yeah.
So, there's one thing that came up as the employees who are working during this lockdown period in the manufacturing units, or say maybe in the essential services industry, if they are found COVID positive, what is the legal implication on the employer? Is the employer liable for some prosecution, or how will it go?
Good question, Kathy. Kathy, it is. In fact, it is the news that is being speculated or just spread, false news spread, that in the event where the employer is permitted by the government to operate, to carry operations with the skeleton staff, from out of the staff are the workers who attend duty during the duty hours while in employment. If the employee found to be COVID positive, that the employer is liable for prosecution and occupier is liable for prosecution under the Disaster Management Act and as well as under the Epidemic Diseases Act. And no, it is not. Even the central government yesterday gave a clarification on that. They are not liable for prosecution for the employee found to be the positive. Only thing is that where the government has imposed certain restrictions for carrying the operation, like sanitization, providing the masks, maintaining the social distance, so on and so forth. If there is any negligence on the part of the employer in complying with safety norms, if anything happens, then it is as per the Factories Act. The occupier and the manager would be responsible. But just because the employee, there is a rumor spread, we are not going to come to work. If I come to work, if I found COVID positive, then the employer. No, it is not.
Okay, okay, right, sir. Sir, another question was on the leaves part. So during this lockdown period, a lot of industries have announced work from home. So how mandatory is it to credit paid leaves or the earned leaves to employees? Can it be abandoned by the employer in this situation?
No, when they are working from home, it can't be treated as a leave. They need to be paid wages.
Okay,
They need to be paid wages. It can't be treated because they are working from home.
right, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I'll quickly take questions from the audience.
Yes.
Okay, so there is this question from Mr. Nagraj, who wants to ask, what about weak industries which they are not able to pay full wages to employees?
Yeah, as on today, the law that stands as per the Ministry of Home Affairs or other thing is the full wages to be paid, there is no. And as far as the Telangana government is concerned, in the 15th March already there was any disturbance in the audio?
Please put your
This is
mics on
challenging.
mute.
Okay, is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Am I
Please go ahead.
audible? Right. And Telangana for the month of March, they gave it, and for the month of April, we have to wait and see what would be the thing and other things. And yeah, there is a petition pending. As of today, the full wages to be paid. Another question that normally Kathy comes is that whether contract labor to be paid, outsourced workmen to be paid, or not, and other things. And some say that I am not the employer when it comes to the contract workers, and the contractor is the employer. When contractor is the employer, why should the principal employer pay? He should pay. That is one question that comes. And until unless the principal employer pays, the contractor can't pay. And even as per the provisions of the Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act, as regards the wages, the employer is jointly and severally liable along with the labor contract. The Act is clearly envisages that the principal employer has to pay and he can recover. When it comes to the like ESA and PF, it is the primary responsibility of the employer to remit the contribution and he can recover from the contractor. That's what the Act envisages. So the principal employer's liability will be there as regards the payment of wages act to the contractor. The other question that comes to me and most often put by the companies is that during this lockdown period, okay, when they are paying wages for the contract workers, what about the commission being paid to the contractors? That service commission or whatever it is for labor, they will be paying some 10%, 5% of the wage bill. So that doesn't come under this, under any of the labor laws, under any of the orders issued by the government. It purely comes under the Contract Act. There are two sorts of contract. One sort of contract is a contract for service. The other sort of contract is contract of service. Contract for service is a business contract, commercial contract. Contract of service is an employment contract. The contract between the principal employer and the labor contractor is the contract for service, is the business contract. None of these orders issued by the government has any legal obligation on the part of the principal employer in respect of payment of service compensation or service charges to the labor. Yes, any more questions
Right, sir.
from the participants?
Yes, sir. There are a lot of questions.
Yes, yes.
So one question is, being PF and ESIC are social security laws, isn't there responsibility to safeguard the employees instead of burdening the employer? This is from Dhruv. So also ESIC has a clause that 70% of wages will be paid to employees in case employee do not attend the duties due to health issues. Isn't this lockdown directly related to health effects of the employees? Have we asked the employees to claim this benefit from ESIC instead of employer?
Yeah, it is a valid question. In fact, and there is a lot of fund available with the PF department, which is not drawn by the employers, where the beneficiaries are not known. Such fund is also available, and the government would have definitely come forward it. And same is the case ESI. And when it comes to the sick leave, what I mean to say that 70% of the wages has to be paid when the employee is on sick. No, this lockdown period cannot be taken as the ESI leave period. Sick means if the employee is really sick and he goes to the ESI hospital and he avails and the ESI doctor recommends the sick leave, then he is entitled. Okay, but ESI, what is an ESI? It is nothing but an insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Companies are paying lot of premium. So when it is nothing but an insurance, even ESI is also having lot many this thing. It is not that every employee avails the facilities, whoever is paying premium. So that can be considered, but these are all these grounds which this participant has raised a valid query also has been put as pleaded as the grounds in that petition that is pending before the Supreme Court. Instead of burdening the employer, where the burden, even the employer, anything, even if it is overloaded in a bullock cart, can the bull pull it? Even the employer also, if it is overloaded, you would not be able to meet the complaints. You would not be able to meet the complaints because it is not that employer is always mighty, employee is weak, and other. There are employers who are facing a problem. There are no where the shoe pinches. So that is why the reason. These are all the various grounds: justification, affordability. Government has passed orders, but affordability. Suppose in the event if the court says the government, you make full payment of wages to the employees. You pay, release this payment, that payment. When the government accepted doesn't have money, what the government will do? So the government has to think. But what is happening mostly is that the workmen are organized by the unions, and unions are having affinity with the political parties. That is all. But the employees organizations also has to strongly take it to the government, like Confederation of Indian Industry or FICCI and so on and so forth, taking this employees problem and should go for the government. And you see, irony is that sometime back when I attended a seminar about 3 or 4 months back about this wage code, the new wage code permits the employee to prosecute the employer directly.
Mm-hmm.
And as per the present law, if the employee need to prosecute the employer, he has to make an application to the labor department, and labor department only alone got right to prosecute. Under the new code, any employee can directly prosecute. Then I did raise a question: when such a facility and power is given to the employee to prosecute, why not it is given to the employer?
Mm-hmm.
Directly, if the employer got to prosecute the employee, he has to make an application to the department under the new code. Then that there is no representation from the employer to that effect. That's what when the standing committee calls for an objection. But there are representation from the workmen or the unions. Yes. Any other question?
Dhruv, how much time do we have?
We can make it fast, complete. Let us not, because I always believe in completion of the task, not. I always believe in accomplishment of task, not completion. So we do. If they have the patience,
which I can see, so we can cover all of them and then we'll wind up.
Yeah, no
Sure.
problem. Because accomplishment is always better than completion.
Yes, we had a time.
Yes, sir. I am a bit fast. I can make it. I don't know if the participants are able to follow it or not. You can invite a comment from the participant whether they are following me or not.
You can follow it, sir.
Yes. Tell me.
Okay. So the next
Kathy,
question.
you can read it out. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So the next question is, any employee due for superannuation in between lockdown period and the employee is stuck at home. In this situation, can close his service on due date or extend till lockdown?
No, it is a contract and he was to retire on the due date and he has to retire. Just because the lockdown is there, there is no provision or law or even under the guidelines that are issued by the government, there is no such rule. The employee, any retirement of employee, it happens during the COVID period, lockdown period, the retirement by default gets extended until the lockdown is lifted. There is no such. He stands to have retired, but there may not be any farewell.
Correct, correct.
There will not be any tea party.
Or maybe they'll have a virtual farewell.
Then it will be a virtual party rather, like
Yeah.
webinars.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So there's another one from Jivatram Reddy. He
Okay.
asked, what if we ask the employee to come to work, and if the employee is not in situation to attend the duties due to current situation, can we consider an LOP?
There is one thing is that you are asking the work to the employee means you also have to provide the necessary transport to the employee to come because he doesn't have private transport. Now public transport is not available. Another thing is that he also need to take a pass from the government or the police for his movement. That also company only has to give it. And there is a saying, before we deserve, we have to think whether we deserve it or not. That's why I say company, not only mere asking the workman to attend duty, company has to give the necessary requirement, whatever it is, be it the pass or the transport. Despite giving all these things, if the employee says, I don't want to come and work, he has to be treated absent, he is not entitled for the pay. Because what I mean to say, for everything there need not be any law. Management is nothing but a common sense. Common sense is most uncommon. And for every law, there is a flaw. There can't be law without a flaw. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Next question.
So the next question is from Raj. When the central and state governments are deferring or reducing salaries to government employees, how is the advisory of MHA is tenable in the court of law if private sector reduce the pay? Doesn't it amount to double standards?
Certainly, there is a rationality in it, but one thing I can say, I recollect the famous case of the Supreme Court in case of the occupier definition under the Factories Act about a decade back. Under the provisions of the Factories Act, the public sector, which is owned by the government, the President of India is the owner. And then they said that when it comes to the public sector, the appointed managing director who is drawing the salary can be permitted to be he is not a director on the board in the public sector, be it HAL, BHEL, or HMT, or so on and so forth, TCAL, or whatever it is. The appointed managing director who is an employee can be permitted to be the occupier. In a private sector, can't an employee be permitted to be an occupier? Why only the founder director should be the occupier? When it comes to the government, they said that the employed person can be the occupier. The Supreme Court said no. For a private sector, an occupier should be a director on the board. Director. So here also, when there is definitely the logic, but the court can look into it. This is a different aspect. Forget about the comparison between the government and the individual employee. Financial capacity, that also can be pleaded. And doesn't mean that if the company is financially sound, it can afford to pay, because the company not only has to look for the day, it has to look for the future. It has to meet the future situation, the future crisis. It must have enough. And by the same time, the government is not giving any subsidy interest because they got to hire. And government is not giving any distinct because the working capital loan, if they don't NPA, it may be declared. So it is for the court to decide. There is something reasoning in it. There is a saying in Telugu that when you come to my house, what is that you are going to give it to me? And when I come to your house, what is that you are going to give me? Either way be. The government approach is like. Yes. Next question.
The next one is, in case of reduced wage, How about PF calculations? Employee who are not covered under PF might get under PF slab. How about such employees PF calculation during lockdown period?
Yeah, it's a really a good question. that shows the reason, right? I appreciate it. And employee who is an exempted employee as of today drawing more than 15,000 rupees basic, where he is not covered under the PF. By virtue of the reduction of the salary, if he falls within the definition of employee as per the PF Act, he has to be PF needs to be contributed. Once contribution forever, maximum liability for contribution is up to 15,000 only. Beyond 15,000 is the option of the employer, or employee rather, and both it is a mutual. There is no legal obligation on the part of the employer to contribute beyond 15,000. That is one aspect. There is other question which he hasn't put it. Suppose if the employee is contributory to PF, his basic wage is 15,000, or say for example 10,000. Can it be reduced? PF contributory salary can get. Section 12 of the EPF Act clearly envisages the basic once fixed cannot be reduced.
Okay. Right, sir.
Next question.
What about notice period during lockdown? This is the next question.
Notice period in the sense if you want to, if the employer wants to terminate the employee by giving 1 month notice or 3 years of notice, or example, when the employee wants to resign giving notice, what is that notice? Is that what he says? Is it the notice from the employee, notice from the employer?
Sir, it's from the employee, while putting down their resignation.
Yeah, the employee is placing papers and yeah, notice is the lockdown employee is helpless. Otherwise, you would have served. The lockdown period has to be treated as notice period.
Yeah.
It has to be set off against the notice period.
Right. From my from my experience, I believe that it depends on the future employer as well as the current employer. So if the current employer wants, they can extend the notice period of the employee on notice period. And the future employer can, prepone their joinings and stuff. So I think it can be worked upon between both the management and the employee.
As long as there is an understanding and consensus is there, because always I say compromise is like a Supreme Court judgment. There is no appeal to it. Mia baby Raju hua to beech pe kya karega Kaji?
Okay. Okay. I think the other questions have been covered. Offer and if an employee refuses, there's this last question that has come up. Can a principal employer terminate a work order or contract with the contractor during this quarantine period?
No, during the lockdown period he cannot. Actually, as I told you, it is a contract for service between the principal employer and the labor contractor. The contract during the lockdown period expires. By default, no need to extend. If the contract during the lockdown period subsists, it has to be terminated as per the agreement, terms of the agreement. If it is 1 month notice or 2 months notice or any such thing. And if at all they want to terminate during the lockdown period, but there is a liability casted upon the employer for payment of wages to the workman, that wages to be paid. So any termination post lockdown is advisable. And another thing is that if the employer, whenever they are making payment for the month of April, employer can say that the payment is made without prejudice to their right to recover in the event if there is any judgment in their favor under protest.
Right, sir. So there's another question that has just come up. What about bonus to be paid to the employees? Is it subjective to bonus declaration by the company?
Bonus is a statutory bonus. When it is a statutory bonus that is to be paid, bonus has to be finalized based on the financial results of the company. Financial results of the company, if there is a set off, all these allocable surplus is there, that has to be paid. That is nothing to do with the lockdown. By virtue of lockdown, if the turnover is not there, if there is a loss, even if you are having allocable surplus, that you have to pay it. So that is not to be linked up to the lockdown bonus, which is a statutory bonus. Who are covered under the bonus act only are to be paid.
Correct. Understood, sir. Another one, if organization wants employee to leave immediately, can organization exclude notice period salary?
Employee wants to leave means actually the thing is that even that 1 month sending the employee by virtue of the contract of service by giving offering 1 month service, 1 month notice or paying leave of notice as far as the non-working category, manager and supervisory category is well and good. When it comes to the workman category, such a class is not there. And normally employers do argue that they have given their unequivocal acceptance at the time of appointment that they did give consent for inviting a termination by a notice from the employer. But in Supreme Court, in one of the cases, categorically said that the contract between an employer and employee is a contract between lion and lamb. It is not a contract among the equal parties, it is a contract among unequal parties. One of the essential ingredients and the conditions for a valid contract is a free consent. Owing to the circumstances the employee gave it. So when it comes to the workman category, terminating the services once the employee completes 240 days of service, terminating him by giving 1 month notice or paying leave of notice amounts to retrenchment. And another thing, when it comes to the non-workman category, the question of giving 1 month notice or paying leave of notice, if you put a clause in the appointment letter itself foreseeing that, however, the employer, if he wishes, at his choice, he can dispense with the notice period and relieve the employee immediately, if there is such a clause. If employer reserves such a clause for himself, equal clause has to be given to the employee also. However, the employee also got every right in the event if he wishes to leave the employment without serving the notice period, he is at liberty. It should be mutual and reciprocal. Not one side when it comes to the employer, one class, when it comes to the employee, the other class. Got my point?
Right, sir.
Right.
Okay, so there is another question. I'm sorry. Yeah, Dhruv has asked, is furlough allowed in India by someone?
Pardon?
Let me
Can
just
you
ask the
ask-
question. I got a
Yes,
I got a message from someone saying, is furlough allowed in India? Anila is asking this question.
What is allowed?
Furlough, F-U-R-L-O-U-G-H.
F-U-R?
L-O-U-G-H, furlough.
No, I couldn't get what exactly it is.
I think we can take it up later.
Kathy, can you say something about, you know about it?
Actually, hello.
Yeah, Mr. Dhruv?
No, this is Lakshman.
Yes, Mr. Lakshman.
Yeah, actually, it was in foreign countries. If any employee is not, I mean, like the company got stuck down due to this COVID. Okay, the employee is still an employee to that company, but they are not going to pay any salaries for that particular period. That's called furlough.
Mr. Murthy, you're on mute. On mute.
Yeah, now I can. And another thing, no, it is not there in India. Under any of the labor laws, there is no such a provision.
Okay.
Where the employee continue to be on the rolls and he will not get the wages.
Yeah, all the US companies.
And if he continues to be on the rolls, he is entitled for the payment. It is something like a detachment with an attachment. Yes, sir.
Right.
That is not permissible in India. And somebody said that this a part of the wage can be deferred or not. It is not total reduction. Suppose if the employee 30% of the wages. Yes, if the employer and employee arrives at an agreement that the payment that is to be made, 20% or 30% can be deferred and it can be paid as and when the financial position improves. Both of them arrive at an agreement by maintaining the minimum wages as guaranteed under the statute, they can, but not unilaterally. Yes, sir. Mr. Dhruv, any more questions?
I think all the questions are covered now, and we're just going to have the same answers on the questions. So, Mr. Murthy, I would like to thank you for addressing our audience, and I would also like to thank Mr. Shashikant for addressing our audience and as well as the GHRD network for hosting this webinar. Mr. Srinivas, would you like to say a few words before we wind up? You're on mute right now. You're on mute.
Kathy, you can brief about the vote of thanks.
Yeah, sure. So
Okay.
I would like to, I would like to thank Mr. Shashi, MD of Credential Learning, and Mr. Murthy for having this insightful session. Mr. Shashi to brief us about the very important aspect of the changes happening around and how do we tackle it. I think it's very critical for everyone to understand this. So Mr. Shashi, thank you so much. Mr. Murthy, this is very critical to understand all the legal implications, and this is very important to take the right decision from the employers and as well as the employees point of view. So sir, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Dhruv,
Sorry.
for
Beyond
having-
vote of thanks, I am saying Mr. Srinivas Gopalam.
Yes, sir.
There are several people who have registered nearly 230, 250 or so. I forgot to mention before vote of thanks. And all of them, perhaps owing to various reasons, could not participate. I hope you have recorded this entire program, and they might be having their emails. As I said, that we believe always in accomplishment, but not in completion. And if they share their emails and other things, knowledge has to be shared. There is nothing wrong in it. That can be sent to them, and you can even download it by opening a YouTube channel, but not such a lengthy session. Split it into various this thing, and then load it, and it would be convenient. And you can put it open to. As far as me is concerned, no objection. I think even the same in the case with Shashikant sir, and that can be shared.
Sure.
You record it and
Absolutely.
share those who could not participate. It would also reach to them. Is
Yeah,
it
it
okay,
should.
Kathy?
It
Sure,
is
sir.
pretty much
It should,
recorded.
it should.
The session is
Mr. Dhruv,
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
is recorded, no?
Yes, it's
Definitely.
thoroughly recorded.
Yeah, that can be shared to them, and even if anybody wants further clarification, and email or a contact number of Mr. Shashikant Garu and me also can be sent, we will deal with it.
We can.
Marke sir,
Yes, sir.
actually GHRD is having the LinkedIn, GHRD India and Facebook and as well as website also. We
Good.
can keep all the videos along with all the, we are planning to open YouTube channel also. So we'll upload everything.
That's good. That's good.
That'll be great. That'll
And
be great.
it would be a really a good service to the participant and as well as HR fraternity.
Right. So
Thank you, Radhakrishna
thank
Garu.
you.
Welcome and Shashikant Garu. Thank you.
Shashikant Garu, thank you very much.
It's nice participating
Thank you.
along with all of you.
Thank you, Srinivas and Dhruv also for having this session or being
Dhruv,
organized
thank you.
seamlessly. Thanks a
Thank you.
lot, and thank you for having me also. It was a great learning for me. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Dhruv.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kathy. Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you, Radhakrishna Garu. Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you, one and
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you. And thank you all the participants for patiently hearing us. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
The session is now ended, so the participants can leave the room if they want to, or they can
Okay.
stay on if
Okay.
they want to ask.
Thank you. I'm signing off.
Yes, please.
I'm signing off, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
signing
everyone. And the session will be ending in the next 1 minute, where it will be ended from my side. Okay, thank you everyone.
Hello.